Welcome to the TechPhase podcast. We at TechPhase are all about connecting female tech communities with companies to support their members finding a meaningful career in tech. To reach this, we provide culture-first company profiles and other useful resources on our website, as well as organize open tech and career events. But we not only provide a platform to network through events, we also want you to hear and learn from successful women in tech. And this is why we invite you to listen to our podcasts, where we talk to inspiring women, sharing their experience, tips, and tricks about the tech world and how you can have a career matching your passion and dreams. Let's listen to our next guest on this episode. Today, we welcome here Damla. Damla and we haven't really met yet in person, but I have seen that you were a speaker at an Accenture event for the DevOps area, and I was quite intrigued by someone who is working in the DevOps area. So this is why I approached you, ask you for a podcast with us. First of all, welcome, and please start with quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me today here in the podcast. So a short introduction from my side. My name is Damla Simsek. I'm 28 years old, born and raised in Germany. My family is originally from Turkey. And at the moment, I'm living and working in Zurich, in Switzerland. I hold my master degree and also a bachelor degree in business and enterprise computing, and some personal stuff to say from my side. I can say that traveling is my passion.
Okay, cool. So as I mentioned in the beginning, you're working currently in the DevOps area, and that's especially for me, and I think some of our listeners for sure as well, is an area I'm not very familiar with, so I don't know much about it. So maybe you can give us a quick introduction of what DevOps is about and how long have you been already in this area?
Yeah, sure, of course. The topic DevOps was also completely new for me. I learned it when I really started at Accenture in my first project. So what we can understand shortly in DevOps is the collaboration between development and operations. So we are trying to focus on that collaboration so that we can reach business goals faster with faster feedback and flexible IT.
Cool. And how would a day look like a little bit? Maybe just to give us a bit more to it, what you're doing the whole day.
So as a DevOps, let me say DevOps engineer, it's like we have a tool chain of tools which we are using at our client, with which we support them in, for example, I can tell you from my older project, uh, the projects, they need development environment for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is, for example, early in the stages, they need to request for hardware for virtual machine, and they needed around 2-3 months to get such a virtual machine.
Mm-hmm.
And with our DevOps approach, they were able to get it in, let me say, a few hours. We were much faster in delivering and supporting them in their working mood, in their daily work, with giving them the virtual machines. And we were much faster with accepting requirements they need and trying to solve them and give them a quite good solution.
That sounds really interesting. So you just mentioned before that you weren't aware or you weren't familiar with this role either before you started with Accenture. Have you had any other roles before in the tech area?
Yeah, I also studied a course with IT background, and my first touch point with IT in the working area was with internship. There I was in the area business intelligence, and that was 2012. And I also worked as a working student for SAP user administration stuff in IT area. So I was working, but not really in the DevOps area before.
But what made you choose the tech area? Because you also mentioned that you had a master's and bachelor degree in computing, business and enterprise computing. What made you choose this topic?
So after my school, I was like, okay, business administration is very interesting, but it's also only one-sided for myself, because a lot of people are studying this, and I was always interested in tech stuff, even during my school time and everything. And I know that technology is very flexible and always growing. And that was the reason why I told, like, okay, let me choose to study business or enterprise computing, because then I have both sides together. So after my studies, I can decide, okay, do I want to go more in IT, or do I want to go more to the business area or business administration stuff? So I would still have the choice to choose in which area I want to go. So I decided to have this touch point during my studies. And now you see, I definitely decided to go into the IT area.
And I think it's a good decision because, as you said, tech is growing, very flexible. There's a lot of things happening, and there will be definitely new roles coming up in the next couple of years as well. That makes it very.
Definitely. Definitely.
What was your approach, and like especially for this job now, as you said, something new as well? What was your approach to get into this role?
So I would say also for myself, also I'm telling to my friends, it's never too late to get into tech. I was researching and picking a focus, because I mean technology is not only this or not only this, so it's a really wide area. And I have the college degree there, but when I started at Accenture, I pursued the Jumpstart. So we have Jumpstart programs there where you have 2 months training for a specific field, what you want to do. And so I was applying, and I told myself, let's try it, let's give it a chance. And I mean, tech is a so wide area. I can still change my focus later, or I can have a touch point and see if it's the right thing for me or not.
So you just mentioned this Jumpstart program or training that's
Yeah.
offered. So it's just for 2 months you get into the area, or is it different topics you will touch during this training?
At the first 2 weeks, you will have more general touch point, something like project preparations and all the stuff. And then you will have 6 weeks really deeply knowledge trainings in that area you're pursuing your Jumpstart. We also have Jumpstarts for DevOps.
Ah, okay, I see. And how many people were doing this at the same time, this Jumpstart?
It depends on which field you're doing this, but in total, with all Jumpstarts together, during my time, we were like 50 persons,
Hmm.
and in my group, we were around 12 persons. It
Okay.
depends really on the field.
And your group, that means also the DevOps field was all the 12 people went into DevOps.
During my time, unfortunately, there were no Jumpstart in DevOps. I did it in Java.
Oh, okay.
So really IT area.
Yeah.
And when I got my touch point with DevOps through my older project, I was then also part of our DevOps community in ASGR, so Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and Russia.
Mhm.
And we built up now the DevOps Jumpstart. So we are giving this opportunity since January, so 2019.
Because I hear a lot of times they still missing or looking for people to get into the
Yes,
DevOps area, so it's not very well
yes,
known. And what do you love about your job in tech today? I mean, you already mentioned that it's the flexibility, the wide range. Is there anything else you say that makes you kick when you go to work?
yeah. I mean, for me, it's an area where nearly every day I learn new things. Not like you only have one program language with you have to learn. It's really diverse, and also the working atmosphere is very relaxed. So I really love it to work in the IT. And of course, because we are mostly in delivery projects, you directly see the result of your work. So it's not like you're doing something, but you will first see it after 5 years or something like that. It's really, you do something, and after a short time, you see what you delivered. And that makes you part of a change. And the thing I like working in tech.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that because I remember when I was working on project and I knew the project will only go live in 3 or 4 years. It was such a long time and you never see a result until then. So I fully agree to that it's quite interesting to see immediately your result.
Yeah, true.
Where do you see the future of tech? What do you think will happen in the next couple of years?
I mean, we would never imagine that IT will bring such new things to us in such a short time. And I think it will also bring many advantages for the future because it's always growing and it's growing more and more. For example, in the cloud area, in AI, machine learning, I'm also interesting to see what we will have in even 5 years.
Even nowadays, a short time can change so much. That's true, actually. Where do
Yes,
you think you see yourself in the future in the tech industry?
that's a good question. So even my friends are asking me, so do you think you will always be in the IT or what do you think? I was really thinking about it, like, is it really that what I want also for my future?
Mhm.
And then I was like, yeah, I will be definitely in the IT because I guess I am that. So I know I'm good in that. So I will use this of course. But to say exactly, I will be there or there. I'm living. Let me say, I'm living for the moment. I have plans, of course, for my future. I will learn more from my current project, and I will grow also in my career. But let's see where I will be in 5 years.
But I think it's definitely true. You need to be also flexible and be able to
Yes,
adjust to new circumstances and especially open about what's
yes.
coming. So,
Yes, I'm always saying like be open for new things.
what would you recommend otherwise to our listeners if they are looking to get into the tech area, especially if they are not yet working in the tech area and they are looking for a job in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's never late to get a touch point or a job in tech. I mean, they can do researches on their interests because tech is not only, for example, developing an application or something like that. It's much, much more. So they can do some researches and they should also not be afraid of trying new areas because in the technologies, you always have the possibility to change your focus. So
Mhm.
being open for new things. For example, they can also do like boot camps or just, for example, these jumpstarts we are giving at Accenture. So these stuffs are always the things you will get the touch point into tech if you do not have any experience in that. Because some colleagues of mine, they didn't study anything with IT, but they jumped into the Jumpstart and now they're working in IT.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's really also these Jumpstart programs are also for people who do not have a background in tech at all.
Yeah, so they have the possibility to jump in there.
Mhm.
The jump sets are especially for people finishing university.
You also mentioned boot camps. Have you come across an interesting boot camp you could recommend?
We only had internal boot camps from these ones I know, but in general, to be honest, I didn't did a research or something on that.
Cool. That sounds very interesting. And I'm sure like it's great advice what you just gave about not being afraid and trying new areas because as you said it's technology, so many new areas popping up and there's always a good chance to get into it. Now, before we getting to the end of this podcast, I would love to ask you some speed questions. So just tell me what comes to your mind right away. Who is your favorite female role model?
Um, I don't have really a female role model or a specific role model in general because I think there are a lot of inspiring females making business. And to go really to older time, for example, Coco Chanel.
Mhm.
He was credited in the post First World War era with liberating women from the constraints of the corseted silhouette and popularizing a sporty or casual, chic, feminine standard of style.
Mhm.
And this during a time where women did not have really power, let me say, power to raise up their voice or something like that, because it was many years ago. So for me, she's one inspiring female role model, I would say.
Okay, good. And what is your most important skill?
So I would say being helpful is my most important skill. So my family and friends are always saying that I'm very helpful, no matter if it's a small thing or something complicated. I'm always ready to help anyone.
And last one, what is the best advice you were ever given to?
My older project lead was always saying to me, believe more in yourself because you have more power in you than you think you have, and don't be afraid of going out of your comfort zone. It may happen that you fail or do mistakes or whatever, but we're all human beings. And what I know for you is you will maybe make these mistakes, but you definitely do not the same mistakes again.
Exactly.
Because I was always like afraid of failing,
Mhm.
and he was throwing me, like, let me say, into the cold water, that I come out my comfort zone, and that helped me a lot, actually.
And I think that's a very good closing because I fully agree to that. We have to jump into the cold water sometimes and take
Yes,
the risk of
that's true.
failing. Thank you very much for being our guest today. And it was great to hear more about you and what you are doing, and of course, also your advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me today in the podcast.
Thanks for tuning in today and listening to this inspiring talk on TechFace podcast. Want to be the first to know about the next episode or get first-hand access to our events? Join TechFace and sign up today on techface.ch. As a new member, you will get a free career coaching call and will always be the first to know about exciting events, news, and insights. We look forward to welcoming you as our valued member.